A warm welcome to Disky Talk with Letsoalo. If you're tuning in for the very first time, I do ask that you please subscribe and hit that notification bell. If you've been a part of this journey, I hope you thoroughly enjoy this episode. So, on today's episode, we discuss all things Kaizer Chiefs and PSL transfer news. So we do know that the window is open and there's a lot of rumors and a lot of speculation with regards to who's coming, who's going. But on today's episode, we focus on three players who have been linked to Kaizer Chiefs for quite some time. And some of these players then in the past couple of weeks have had the rumor mill in overdrive by virtue of the fact that there's so much speculation around their futures at their respective club and that they've been linked with Kaizer Chiefs. So the first is Sithebe, then Letsoalo, and then Preez as well. But we will then start with Sithebe, who then currently plays for AmaZulu. So when you have a look at Sithebe then, he is a midfielder. So this is a midfielder then who mostly plays as an 8, but can always then add that offensive action with regards to him then from midfield being able then to push and create those chances. And a midfielder then who I would say that has had a very good career at AmaZulu. It's just this season he hasn't really been at his best and hasn't really found that form. But this is then a player then who I think is a good midfielder. And when you have a look at him then, if he were to sign for Kaizer Chiefs, I think, look, I know that when you have a look at Kaizer Chiefs, you think of the fact that they could have gotten Cele and they could have gotten Perusnat, which I think would have been better players than a Sithebe from a qualitative perspective. But when you have a look at Sithebe and how he has been doing and you have a look at his ability, I think he would come to this Kaizer Chiefs side and he would be a better option than an Alexander Cole and a better option than a Gay as well, because sometimes he can play in a double pivot as well. But if he were to sign then for this Kaizer Chiefs side, I think then he would play as an 8 because Stuart Baxter has been playing a 4-3-3. So he'd play as an 8 alongside a Nange, and then you'd most likely have Unjabulo Ngobo if they don't sign a defensive midfielder. Blom has also been playing there as well. But Sithebe would then most likely operate as an 8 and then look then to be the one then to play as the much more advanced and as the much more creative midfielder within the heart of midfield for Kaizer Chiefs, which would then ease that creative pressure from a Keegan Dolly, because we do know how creative Keegan Dolly has been for this Kaizer Chiefs side and how important he has been. But when you have a look at it then from this perspective and Sithebe potentially coming to Kaizer Chiefs, I just feel that Nkosi Ngobo was a better footballer. And if we're going to have a look at it then from a midfield 3 perspective, I think that's where Nkosi Ngobo should be playing, because then you'd have Nange there and then you'd have either a roadblock or you'd have Blom there. So I just don't really see then where a Sithebe then from this perspective, in my opinion, where it fit in. But obviously then with Kaizer Chiefs having been so interested in Sithebe for a very long time, they obviously do see a place for him within the side, which would most likely then be as another 8 within the heart of midfield. And when you have a look at it then, do I think that he's a player who would add that value to Kaizer Chiefs? I don't really think so, because I don't think that he's a premium midfielder. I think that there are better midfielders out there. And if Kaizer Chiefs are then looking to sign players within this period, I think they should be adding a player who would potentially walk into the lineup and a player then who has that star quality, because that's just how big of a club Kaizer Chiefs is. They should be signing players then who are already great players, then who have a great pedigree as well. However, with Sithebe, he is a good player, he is a hard-working player. So if he does get the chance, I do think that he will work hard for this Kaizer Chiefs side. So very interesting to see then if he will then sign for Kaizer Chiefs and what will happen regarding that matter. So at home, do let me know, what do you make of Sithebe potentially joining Kaizer Chiefs? Do you think is a quality midfielder? Do you think is a midfielder that is needed by Kaizer Chiefs? Or do you think that he's a good midfielder but just not at the level of Kaizer Chiefs? And at the end of the day, this is more or less the market that Kaizer Chiefs have been playing in. This is the space that they have been playing in. Players who are more or less in that bracket of Sithebe, you know, as Kaizer Chiefs haven't then really... Yeah, over the past couple of years, we do know that they haven't really been breaking the bank for certain players, you know, because when we have a look at it from this perspective, one would rather want a Tebogo Mokoena over a Sithebe if they could pick. But we do know that, yeah, the club in that regard and in that department haven't been doing really well from a recruitment perspective. Moving on then, right along, Victor Letsoalo. So this is a player then who plies his trade for Royal AM, who also sits second on the goal scoring standings within the DStv Premiership. A player then who's having a great season for Royal AM. A player who's also managed to break into Bafana Bafana as well. Quality striker, and he offers so much because this is a striker then who is also quite mobile. And if you have a look at it then, how would he fit in if he signed? So I think that would push Bilia to the left. You'd have Letsoalo and then you'd have Dolly. And the nice thing then with regards to how Kaizer Chiefs have been going about their business is that they've been creating so many chances. So when you bring in a quality striker like a Letsoalo, this is a player then who would convert those chances. And at some point, Kaizer Chiefs had created the most chances within the DStv Premiership. So when you're creating all those chances, you want a quality player at the end of those. And I think Letsoalo would be the right man. Hopefully then Kaizer Chiefs are able to sign Letsoalo, as I do think that when I look at the rest of the teams within the league, I think this is where Letsoalo would fit in the best. And also considering then that Nukovic has been out and Castro is also then working his way back to full fitness. So if Letsoalo did sign for Kaizer Chiefs in this January window, I think it would be the perfect time. And I think it'd hit the ground running by virtue of the fact that the confidence is high, he's fully fit, he's scoring goals, and he's just got that impact as well. And he'd also then have quality surrounding him in Billiard, who creates so many chances, in Keegan Dolly as well, who creates so many chances, and hopefully Nkosi Mpile Ngobo, who would come in and be given that chance. And when you have a look at it from this perspective, then Kaizer Chiefs would be so dangerous with Letsoalo up front, Keegan Dolly coming off the right, Billiard coming off the left, and then having Nkosi Mpile Ngobo pulling strings from vertical zone 3, looking then to have that creative presence from the heart of midfield. And I think that these three would create so many chances for Letsoalo. You know, that is a player then that has also been linked with this Kaizer Chiefs side, and I think that is a player that Kaizer Chiefs do need, as Coach Arthur Zwane at the end of the year, he did cite that a striker is needed and they are looking to beef up that department. So I think a Victor Letsoalo would be perfect. Remains to be seen though, as if would Kaizer Chiefs then be willing to break the bank and sign him, or what would happen? You know, would they wait for his contract to run out and then look to get him on a free the next season? Very interesting times ahead then, but I think Letsoalo would be great for this Kaizer Chiefs side, and he would be a player then who would finish off so many chances. Like I mentioned, he's also very mobile, and when you have a look at this front three, it is then a very mobile front three. I also think that with his energy up front as well, he would also then help this Kaizer Chiefs side to also press teams right high up. So there's so many things that a Victor Letsoalo would do for this Kaizer Chiefs side from a qualitative perspective, and he ticks so many boxes. The next player then who was linked with Kaizer Chiefs in previous windows is then Ashley du Preez, a player then who's also doing very well for Stellenbosch, a player then who's also scoring the goals for Stellenbosch, and a player then who works very hard, and a player who I think then when you have a look at him, if they were to sign him, then you have a player for the long term, you know, because he is 24. So when you're having a look at him and signing him at the age of 24, you could have him for so many years and he could add so much value to this Kaizer Chiefs side. He is then also a player then who I think would go up front, but the nice thing about him is that he plays in a front three at Stellenbosch, which is fluid, which loves to institute rotational play and positional play as well. So at times you'd see him drift to the left. So with Billiat, who likes to also drift and sometimes occupy that false nine role, then you'd have Dupré. So with Billiat and Dupré, I think they'd enjoy a great relationship with regards to the interchanging of positions and them instituting that rotational play. And when you have these two, and you've got the speed of these two, and you've got Keegan Dolly then, who would normally look to play in between the lines and manipulate that right side of the half space in vertical zone 4, you'd then have two players then who are very fast, who are able then to get in behind and who can also score goals. So I think that would really boost Kaizer Chiefs' attack as well. So it would be then very interesting to see if they do get Ashley Dupré. I do think that is a player that Kaizer Chiefs should be looking to sign because, he's 24 and he'd bring so much to this Kaizer Chiefs side. And another part of his game that goes unnoticed is his technical ability and his ability to pick a pass and also give the assist as well. He's also really improving in that regard. That is a player then who could add so much to this Kaizer Chiefs side. But it is still early times within the window and the transfer window. So it becomes very interesting to see what will happen. Some of these players might end up joining or none of them might join at all. We do know how the transfer window does play out. It's a very unpredictable time when it comes to the transfer window and January as well. However, at home, do let me know, what do you make of these three players in Sithebe, who currently plies his trade for AmaZulu, in Victor Letsoalo, who currently plies his trade for Royal AM, and then Ashley Dupré, who currently plays for Stellenbosch. And as a Kaizer Chiefs fan, would you welcome those three players? As a neutral, what do you think? Do you think those three players could add value to this Kaizer Chiefs side? So this is then the first of many when it comes to episodes for the PSL transfer news. We're going to be having a look at it, and I'm going to cover the transfer news extensively in this January period. Thank you very much for tuning in to yet another special episode of Diski Talk with Letsoalo. Signing out.